What if I told you that Sylvie from Loki, Glinda from Wicked, and a certain group of people in real life all share one thing in common? This is the privilege of not caring, Sylvie, Glinda, and the white audacity of selfishness. Now, what do they share in common? No, it's not magic powers. It's the privilege of not caring. The luxury of putting personal desires above the greater good, all while pretending to be the hero of the story. But what happens when selfishness is dressed up as righteousness? And why does this kind of white audacity feel so familiar? The illusion of being the victim. Let's start with the basics. Both Sylvie and Glinda see themselves as underdogs. Sylvie, a lone survivor, hunted by the TVA, frames her entire existence around revenge. Glinda, a charming socialite and wicked, sees herself as a beacon of goodness. Both think they deserve more. And here's the problem. Getting what they want comes at the expense of everyone else. Sylvie is so obsessed with vengeance that she ignores the consequences of her action. When she's given the chance to prevent multiversal chaos, she chooses personal satisfaction instead. She believes she's freeing people, but in reality, she's dooming them. Glinda, she plays innocent, but her entire rise to power depends on maintaining the system that crushes Elphaba. She enjoys the status quo because it benefits her, and when things go wrong, she gets to cry about it while still sitting comfortably on top. The power of the bystanders. But here's the thing. Sylvie and Glinda aren't acting alone. Their choices are made possible by the people around them. In Wicked, the citizens of Oz don't just let the wizard take power, they embrace his lies because it's easier for them. They go along with the demonization of Elphaba and the erasure of the animals because questioning it would mean questioning their entire way of life. And as long as their lives are comfortable, who cares about what they do to other people's lives? And in Loki, the TVA is full of people who enforce the rules without question. They prune timelines, erase lives, and maintain this sacred order, all while telling themselves they're just doing their jobs. Even when confronted with the truth, most of them hesitate to act. Sound familiar? This is how systems of oppression stay in place, not just through the leaders, but through the people who follow orders, who don't push back, who convince themselves that this is just the way things are. Whether it's Ozland celebrating the downfall of Elphaba and the erasure of the animals, or TVA erasing entire realities and real people clinging to MAGA slogans, or even the Nazis, while ignoring the harm they enable. It's the same pattern. Silence isn't neutrality, it's complicity. Now, does any of this sound familiar? Enter the world of real life privilege, the kind that lets people ignore injustice because it doesn't affect them. Think about the modern day MAGA movement. Many of its followers claim to be victims. They say their culture is under attack. They think they're being left behind. But instead of working toward a better, more inclusive world, they cling to an illusion of the past, one where they never had to consider anyone else's struggles. Like Sylvie, they reject the idea of collective responsibility. They fight tooth and nail to uphold their own version of freedom, even if it means burning everything down in the process. And like Glinda, they benefit from the systems in place, even when they claim they're just good people caught in the middle. The weaponization of innocence and selective morality. Both Glinda and Sylvie use their perceived innocence as a shield. Sylvie justifies her destruction because she was wronged. Glinda avoids guilt by playing the helpless bystander. This is the same tactic we see in real life. People who claim they didn't know better, when they support harmful ideologies, or those who act like being called out is a bigger crime than the harm they help perpetuate. MAGA supporters often pretend they're just defending tradition, just asking questions, just worried about fairness. But their refusal to acknowledge systematic oppression keeps that oppression alive. And when confronted, they double down just like Sylvie does before she plunges her sword into He Who Remains. Just like Glinda does when she lets Elphaba be hunted instead of speaking out. The cost of privilege and the true meaning of change. The truth is, privilege allows people to not care. It allows Sylvie to think only about her revenge, Glinda to think only about her comfort, and certain groups in real life to think only about their nostalgia for a past that never existed. existed. But here's the thing. Change doesn't happen when people refuse to acknowledge their place in the system. Sylvie never truly faces the weight of what she's done. Glinda doesn't either. She gets a somewhat redemptive arc, sure, but only after standing by and letting destruction happen, and then doing nothing to fight it after that. And manga? It thrives on the idea that accountability is oppression, that progress is a personal attack. So the question is, are we doomed to repeat these cycles forever? Or is there a way to break the pattern? Stories like Loki and Sylvie show us what happens when privilege goes unchecked. They remind us that being good isn't about how you see yourself. It's about what you do when faced with injustice. So the next time you hear somebody crying about being the real victim while turning their backs on the suffering of others, ask yourself, are they really the hero or just another villain in disguise? Let me know what you think about this in the comments, and if you enjoy this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden politics of pop culture.